I'd like to welcome everybody to the April meeting of the Southampton Village Planning Board. If everybody could silence their phones, that would be great, and we'll get started. Can I have a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. First item on the agenda is the subdivision of review, Beach Plum Meadows LLC, 248 Moses Lane. We have prepared a negative declaration, and I would ask Mr. Cleary, for the record, to briefly summarize this document.
I've arranged that.
At the direction
so
of the board,
that when you
Mr.
touch
Chairman,
it, it blows
a
up.
negative declaration was
So put it by the fountain pen, which is just leave it there.
There you go. How's that? Is that good?
At the direction of your board, Mr. Chairman, we have prepared a negative declaration. This is for the Beach Plum Meadow project, and what the negative declaration does is it cites the various reasons and it documents how the project will not result in a significant adverse impact. That's the negative declaration form before you. We talked about the contents of it at last week's work session. I have not had any comments from board members regarding any changes to the document, so if anyone has any changes, now would be the time to make them. Other than that, the document's before you for action this evening.
Thank you. Board members, having reviewed the document, does anyone have any additional input? No.
This is for the neg deck, right?
For the neg deck. Having debated this application at length, having listened to considerable input on both sides, I'd now like a motion to
Roy,
vote.
ask if there's any public comment.
We
Did you close? You didn't, well, the meeting's
closed it
still
at the last
We did
meeting.
close it.
You closed this
Yep.
segment of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I have a motion to vote on this negative declaration?
Make a motion to adopt
Adopt.
the negative declaration as prepared.
Can I have a second?
On the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So the status of this application now would be that the applicant would,
The applicant had, the negative declaration was based on the sketch plan before you.
Right.
The next step in the process would be to have you direct the applicant to submit to you the preliminary subdivision plat. You'd then have a public hearing on the preliminary subdivision plat. It would then go to final. So there's a long way to go in terms of the technical review of the application yet to go.
You just say,
Mr. Chairman, on a procedural matter, if I can just supplement what Mr. Cleary said, I believe that the next thing to do is to act on the sketch plan itself. As you know, the sketch plan is a creature of the local ordinance as opposed to the state law, so we would ask that you move forth with a sketch plan. In fact, that's what was closed in terms of the public hearing back in January. It was the public hearing on the sketch plan review. So, and I've submitted a letter in which I indicate I believe we've met all of the standards, the technical standards, and I think procedurally that's where we are. As I say, the public hearing was closed, so it's procedurally up to you.
Mr. McFarland, Mr. McFarland was not on the
Yeah.
board when we were originally reviewing the sketch plan. I know he has some input which he'd like to provide.
yeah, I guess this is for the record. I've known the lot and the nursery for 40 years, and the development of the road. And I've talked to Attorney Flanagan at length. He was very nice to let me chat with him briefly about the neighborhood. And I have a traffic view, having traveled it often and now traveled through there all the time, because that neighborhood has become, from a Class C or D, a Class A neighborhood for getting to the new post office. Life changes in this village over the decades. And I think that to build, I think it's reduced to 5 entrances on to Moses Lane, where it goes east-west there, is less wise for the community and all of its neighbors than to ask I call it the developer, the person who's going to do the construction there, more or less along the 16 smaller lots that are going in subject to all of the other work that was just approved. I think it'd be a lot better to have 2 or 3 cul-de-sacs go in, which reduce it as a through neighborhood, reduce traffic, reduce the stop signs, reduce the flow, improve the flow of traffic, which is already a major issue for that neighborhood in light of possible developments outside the village to the north of it. So I have a personal view that a better site plan might be possible. I am advised from long before I was involved here that neighbors have weighed in on all sides. Some have not weighed in because trades were made, as any developer does with their private property, which is fine. But I do think that there is a chance that the developer could come up with an improved development plan in terms of roads and drainage and what's involved, that the fire department would approve for access for fires, which is another issue, as you all know, that would reduce traffic all around that acreage south of the railroad tracks. So I may be too late. I wasn't on the board in time. I've looked at all the public hearings for modest background of objections of tenants in the neighborhood, both south of it and east of it. And I think it would also improve the neighborhood west of it, which is still being leased up and rented out anyway. So there's a whole new neighborhood coming just to the west of that area. So that's my man-on-the-road traffic observation. The layout of the roads, I guess you'd say, whoever's keeping the score here, well, you know how it gets. I think it is worthy of honest review for the town, for the village and the surrounding tenants, because you got to balance some interests. There's a lot of interests. So that's my speech, Chairman. So I don't know what I can do now. If we have this old plan to approve, I guess the board has to vote on it, but I think it, and by the way, the counselor has reviewed it with the people doing it, and they believe that on balance, under the circumstances, it would not be to their advantage to move forward, but I raised the asterisk of saying, could you give it the old one more college try? You know, pretend you're Wisconsin.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify process a bit. Your code does not authorize you to approve a sketch plan. It authorizes you to direct the applicant to submit the preliminary plat. So there's no formal approval of a sketch plan as I read the code. It's the direction of you to the applicant to submit the preliminary plat. So there is nothing cast in stone other than a concept by which you rendered your environmental determination. The process is established so that at each step moving forward, there would be the opportunity to make improvements to the plan. So the comments are well stated, and the process is not closed. The opportunities to improve the plan remain intact.
Thank you. Would any other board member like to address the applicant with regard to the status of the sketch plan?
Is he still on this subject?
Yep. Do you have comments on it?
Well, it's 10 acres and it's 18 housing sites. And
60.
when we approved the sketch plan, I thought, and I was under the impression that we had done a fairly thorough job on the site. But I have to wring my hands and give up on the subject that only the trustees can deal with, and that's the roads, and that's the traffic, and that's the backup. And I have no, and I think the trustees are going to have to do something about the roadways surrounding this project, which also has 77 more sites on it. This 18 is just really kind of small. That's 95 home sites, or 180 cars at least. And I don't know how to urge people to deal with the bumper-to-bumper traffic on Hill Street unless the least we do could put in a turnout lane. Well, there's no room for a turnout line, or is there? And where is the traffic study by the village for this end of town. Because if you're smart, you will leave after 11 o'clock and you make sure you get back before 4 o'clock. Otherwise, you're bumper to bumper. Sounds like the highway. I have no, that's my principal concern. I don't see any point in coming back to the lack of amenities on the site. It's a subdivision. It doesn't have a tennis court, it doesn't have a community house, it doesn't have a pool, it doesn't have any lights, it has no walks, it has no amenities, which make life in Southampton a lot nicer than it does in the subdivisions without any amenities at all. But that's history, or is it? I don't know, Mr. Chairman, if it's history or not.
Well, I think the point that Mr. Cleary made was that there's still an opportunity for the plan to be tweaked a bit, based on the input that the applicant receives both from the board and from the issues that the community has raised in discussion of the plan so far. Mr. Lemansky, you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think we did a pretty good job of taking it from point A and bringing it to point B and listening and having them change it. And because of the other side streets, the residents on the other side streets seem to be adamantly against connecting. I think this is about the best layout you're going to get. I don't think we can come up with a better layout. So I'm still in favor of moving it to the next level.
Thank you, Mrs. Gilmartin.
I agree with Steve. I was just looking at how we've been doing this for a year, and I think we have entertained everybody's comments and inputs, and I don't know how going over that again is going to change anything.
Thank you. So we would direct the applicant to prepare the subdivision plat? Preliminary subdivision plat, taking into consideration to the best of your abilities the issues that have been raised, and we look forward to seeing the next iteration.
Oh, do you want them to vote on that?
Yes.
Should do that by motion, Mr. Chairman?
Is there an opportunity still for public comment at this point or not?
Yeah?
No. Yes, no?
Yeah, there always
This
is.
Chairman, the public hearing was closed.
No,
on this.
no
this is
public
on-
hearing, but just
This is on the
comment.
motion for to direct you for the preliminary plat. Is that right, Roy? Yeah.
Does anybody have a statement to make? Yes, ma'am.
Valerie Hart, Corrigan Street. I read the neg deck that's to be signed, and I believe there's a little error on the neg deck, unless it was changed.
Ma'am, we're addressing the issue of the direction of the
Okay,
applicant,
it's,
not
okay.
that's already been
okay,
voted on.
Okay, fine. The number of entrances to the development, according to the sketch plan, is 3 entrances to houses, and then the 2 main roads, one in Fox Hollow, one the other. So that's 5 entrances. But there is the opportunity to change another entrance to exit onto Moses Lane, which was considered Moses Lane was actually considered, when we discussed this whole thing before, a connector street. And it's still up in the air whether they're allowed any entrances, driveways on Moses Lane, because it being a connector street. The other question is, the houses on Guilfoyle that face Guilfoyle, I don't know if it was ever decided whether Guilfoyle is still a road. It is a road, but they were going to have it abandoned. And as of now, you've got the houses on Guilfoyle, and then you've got other houses, this is the sketch plan, other houses that have, all the houses have patios. Now, if the developer wanted to put a pool in or a deck, he probably would have to get variances for all of this. So when you look at the sketch plan, is it really a correct sketch plan? Park space, going back to my famous topic, park space. It was never decided, and I think before you can go ahead with a sketch plan, don't you need to decide on park space? Some type of,
And the sketch plan has already been determined.
Well,
This- your
for
comments
tweaks on
were-
it.
Well, that's what the next phase of this process is, the
yeah,
tweaking of that.
tweaking, yeah. So
So you're-
these would go into
You'll have
that
an
part of
opportunity
the,
later on when
Okay.
that's presented to speak to
that
these
was my
issues.
question. And also about the number of parking spaces in houses.
Same thing there also.
Number of bedrooms have to have a certain amount of parking spaces. Okay, that's fine. I'm just checking to make sure that we can do this. The chromoglass plant, that's another thing. We have reservations, I have reservations personally
Again,
about that.
that's yet to be determined.
Okay, I'll let my colleagues speak on that. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Kevin McAllister. I'm
Kevin, we're addressing the issue of the resolution pending to direct the applicant to prepare the preliminary plat. So I ask you, you've heard the colloquy that just happened, are your comments now more appropriately addressed to that? Because whatever, the sketch plan is now finalized. So
Well-
we're not talking about the sketch plan, we're talking about the next phase. Do you have any issue with why that shouldn't be directed now?
No, I guess not.
You'll be given opportunities
Okay.
later during the next phases to
Okay.
make any more generalized
Very
comments.
briefly, for purposes of thinking, I'm not here to critique the site plan per se, but I will say that it can be greatly strengthened with respect to wastewater treatment. And without going outside of my boundary relative to the constraints, if you will, and in deference to what you're saying, I'm
What you
not,
should do then is put whatever comments you've got
Okay.
preliminarily in writing to the board, and so Mr. Cleary can
Okay.
review them in the board, and that way, when this comes up again, they'll be ahead of the curve.
Okay, 30 seconds, let me leave you with this. I've gone inside and outside of wastewater treatment over the last 10 years. I'm here to tell you Chromoglass is a colossal failure. Has been. I've looked at the records, the discharge monitoring reports that Suffolk County assembles, over 70 some odd plants over 3 years. This dates back several years. They're not even meeting drinking water standards, never mind ecological standards. So as we move forward with your consideration on subdivisions, the gentleman reflected on future development. We should really be striving for as good as it gets, best available technologies. This site plan can be strengthened with that respect, and I'll defer further comments and details as the opportunity arises in future meetings. And thank you for your attention to my comments.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to comment on the resolution to move forward with the subdivision plat? Thank you very much. So,
Call your vote.
So make a motion to direct the owners to proceed with the preliminary plat.
The site plan, right?
The preliminary plat of the site plan.
Site plan. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving into the tennis court section of the agenda, there is a decision pending on 500 Old Town Road.
Decision is in the file, and an affirmative vote on the motion would be to approve the tennis court site plan as amended.
Hi, Charlie.
Make a motion in the matter of 500 Old Town Road to approve the decision as written.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 The second tennis court is Romit Shah, 224 Downs Path. There's also a decision pending on this application.
Aye.
Similarly, an affirmative vote on the motion will be to approve the site plan for the tennis court as amended.
This is Downs Path? Downs Path?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve the matter, the application of Ramit and Tanya Shah as written.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The public hearing, Southampton Real Estate Partners, 85 and 95 Down East Lane. A negative declaration has been prepared by our consultant. Would you like to please summarize that first and second?
There were two areas of concern here. One was related to the density of development, but it all stems on the fact that this property fronts on an impaired waterway. And so the additional density would potentially impact the waterway. So the applicant has come up with a plan, a restoration plan, a landscape plan that pretty much takes all of the fertilizer-dependent lawn away, replants it with meadow and upper meadow and some all native species, some ornamentals, but they're non-fertilizer dependent in generally speaking. And they did a mass balance analysis, which basically looks at the nitrogen loading from the existing and the future uses, including 2 sanitary systems from 2 new homes, and getting rid of the lawn and installing this new landscape plan. And there's a major benefit actually to the waterway from just getting rid of all of that lawn that they're currently fertilizing and watering and all. So that is mitigation, in our opinion, mitigation sufficient to render a negative variance.
My question, Kathy, is it, in the minutes, the proposal was to have no lawn or just to vastly reduce it? Southampton inevitably privet hedge and lawn somewhere. And so I couldn't tell by the minutes. I know it's being reduced, and that's perfect.
Greatly
For Hetty
reduced.
Creek, it's fabulous. Is it
Greatly-
0? It reads 0.
I'm sorry?
7,000
There'll be 7,000 square feet only of lawn.
There'll be some lawn left.
A little bit, yeah, a
No,
little
that's right. No, the minutes that we're reading, there's 0 lawn, that's all. I just. want to
No,
make
there'll be
sure.
a little bit,
I know
but it-
there's a little bit.
Be an
'cause I
awful lot less.
figured there'll be a little bit.
A tiny bit, right, a little
Well,
bit.
It's all fine. I just wanted it worded accurately.
You're correct, Mr. McFarland, you're correct.
Okay.
And the remaining question, before moving on, the remaining question was, what happens if we move, because it's in a court, what if we move that boundary slightly to
Line.
the southeast?
Yeah.
And what does that buy us in terms of a building envelope on Lot 2? And the answer is not very much. And so the architect had written a letter that's in the planning board's file that basically says, you don't get a lot for that additional moving of the line. And so there's no reason to require that. There will be a reflection in assuming that the planning board approves this, that there will be a note that anything that's built outside the building envelope will require zoning board relief, whether it's zoning setback relief or wetlands relief. That would be up to the zoning board to determine what's the best course of action in that case. So I recommend closing the public hearing and voting on the neg deck.
Does anyone here wish to make a comment? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adopt the neg deck and sign that as well?
So that's the,
That's the
this
one.
is
Yeah, 'cause that
this
was
is the
the
negative,
analysis. We were
this is the
finishing the
negative
analysis.
declaration here.
On the environment Kathy's finished the analysis, we have to approve the
Right.
environmental part, that the
Right.
analysis
That's
was
what
right.
this is.
Okay.
So can I have a motion to approve the negative declaration?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
So there's a place for you to sign, right? And copies will be given to Mr. Flanagan tonight, so it doesn't have to.
That'll help me go to the health department. I need that in order to,
Start that battle.
in order to start that issue.
One to the file and one to go to Mr.
Have the
Flanagan.
discussion.
I would ask that to the extent you need to act on a sketch plan, that you could do that forthwith also. I know you can't do it tonight, but I would respectfully request that you give us the green light so we can go to a final approval on this, since it's
This is just to approve the lot line.
just to approve the lot line. What we'd like now to be able to do is to go to a final application with all the conditions you mentioned, all of which are acceptable to us.
So, but we can adjourn
Adjourned for all purposes.
for all purposes. Motion to adjourn for all purposes of Southampton Partners, 85 and 95 down East Lane.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the neg deck, I have to get it back in here.
We signed that. We approved.
Subdivision review, Mitchell Family Real Estate requests an adjournment until September 2/15.
Right, the sole reason for that is, once again, our friends, the health department. We haven't been able to finish up with them, but as you may recall, this subdivision in a slightly different form a number of years ago, was approved by this board and by the Health Department. But since it's a little different and the Health Department now has different requirements, we need to go back to them, and we anticipate no issues.
Mitchell?
Yeah.
But we need the time to work our way with them.
I move it be suspended or adjourned, brought back later.
This was under subdivisions?
Under subdivision number 1.
So was this not on our work session?
It was not.
No.
For some
Oh,
reason,
okay.
the
It's
letter
number
came
one
in
there.
and it
Right,
wasn't on the work
it's-
session.
It was on the work session, okay. Great.
Corner of Cooper's. It's a motion that the applicant delays it.
Okay, I'll make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the Mitchell Family Real Estate to September 2015.
Actually, to extend the conditional approval and the conditions that were in it.
Motion to approve the request of the applicant to extend the conditional final approval, all terms and conditions therein, until the regular public meeting in September 2015.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bishop's Grant, 333 North Main Street. We have the final subdivision map, which has been, did you change the setbacks as we discussed at the work session?
I think they submitted new plans here.
Yes. Wayne Rowan for the applicant. Mr. Dove is here as well for the applicant. Last week, I know one of the questions, actually, the planning board adopted a final conditional approval at your last meeting. One of the questions related to including a note regarding the dimensional requirements of the various lots. We reviewed the lot areas, the flag lots, and actually potential building envelopes, and then reviewed them with John Foster to make sure what we have here. And given the nature of the subdivision where the village did not want a public street, we created this common driveway scheme with some internal flag lots so that we have no access to County Road 39. Yet one of the lots, as you know, is configured in a shape of a flag lot from County Road 39, although the condition is that we have no access there at all. So what we were able to ascertain, first of all, under the the village code, lot area excludes rights-of-way as well as the flagpoles of lots. When you look at these lots, we created 40,000 square foot lots. We're in the R12.5 zone, so we're substantially oversized for zoning purposes, but for health department purposes, we made them 1 acre in size. So when you exclude flagpoles from the 3 lots that appear to be flagpoles in the right-of-way, you actually end up with buildable lot area, the bulk of the lots, less than 40,000. So what we would ask the board's consideration is the zoning requirements for lots 1, 3, and 4 be for lots that are between 20,000 and 40,000. And then lot 2, which will be exactly 40,000, which has the frontage on North Main Street, would meet the dimensional requirements for 40,000 to 60,000. So that's number 1. So then we took those zoning requirements and then tried to plot building envelopes. And as you know, on flag lots, you can choose the required front and rear yards. So we did it in a manner, if you look at lot 1, which fronts on County Road 39, and we're offering a 50-foot wide scenic buffer so that you keep the woods along that whole intersection. We made the front yard, which is the street, that area, which is 40 feet, to be within that buffer, so the buffer actually exceeds the front yard requirement, and then the westerly line is the rear yard where accessory structures can be. So that's lot 1. Lot 2, because it's not a flag lot, it fronts on North Main Street, although where access would be via the common driveway, we still put the front yard 60 feet from North Main Street with the rear yard to the west 70 feet. So that's the building envelope that you see there. On lot 3, that's a flag lot. We chose to have the front yard, which would be fronting the right-of-way coming in with the rear yard to the north, and that's the resultant building envelope. And lot 4, we chose the southerly line to be the front yard. And if you recall at the public hearing, the landowners to the lot immediately to the south appeared, they had some comments. And so by putting the front yard there, we've eliminated pretty much any development, any structures within that 40 feet adjacent to their lot. So what we'd ask the board's consideration as we're moving towards compliance with all the conditions is to reconsider that one condition 1C to reflect the building envelopes that we've shown on this map, number one. And then number two, we did submit a landscape plan, which was a condition that shows proposed landscaping along the southerly side of the driveway going in and along the flags. So that was submitted and forwarded to your consultants for review. And some of the other conditions, just to keep you up to speed, we have received updated health department approval. We have, as I mentioned, submitted the landscape plan. We have submitted the SWIP plan also to Nelson Pope. I believe they're reviewing that, and I believe that's almost in a form for adoption. And my understanding is you have received the appraisal, and your council's looking at that, and hopefully by the next meeting we'll have some recommendation as to the park fee, which my client's ready to do. I think the goal here from our client's perspective, our client, who's contract vendee, is actually going to close by the end of the week, and as soon as they close and we have title, we'll be able to submit the covenants, the easements, and that would be the last item other than paying the park fee, so we could get the map hopefully in a position to be signed formally. You know, you can review it at your work session at the end of the month and then sign the map hopefully on your May 2nd meeting if everything is acceptable. So I don't know if you have any particular questions about the building envelopes or the landscape plan that we can take back, or any comments to your consultant that we can take back at this time, or
Why
if
is
not.
in lot 4, the building envelope is touching, appears to be touching the roundabout?
Well, first of all, it's a right-of-way, and the physical pavement, as you can see, is inside of that, but the building envelope, you know, you're not required from an easement to have a setback, but if you think we should have greater than what is shown there, I suspect anybody who builds the house isn't going to be right on the right-of-way either, but I think technically that it's meeting the zoning requirement, but if you want us to have a setback off of that, we can show that as well. I don't know what, you could see the pavement edge in the right-of-way. I don't know if you want another 10 or 20 feet there.
I mean, I think this is a right-of-way that was asked for by the fire marshal, right? This turnaround?
Well, this board and the fire marshal together, yeah.
Right? But I think the way this is set up, this is the only person who's ever going to be coming down here.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the turnaround is primarily for the fire marshal, as you know. The turnaround is I think is going to be more or less primarily for Lot 4 to use.
okay. And then the notes you were speaking of, you said 1C. Did you say?
Well,
Is that what?
the condition of approval is condition number 1C, which said include a note that all the lots are governed by the dimensional requirements for lot areas with 40 to 60,000 square feet. But in light of the fact that we looked at the definitions, and lots 1, 3, and 4, excluding the flag strips and excluding the easement area, are all less than 40,000, they would be entitled to the dimensional requirements for 20 to 40. And in fact, if you look at the two notes on the maps 10 and 11, we've added those two notes on 10 and 11.
We did.
Yep, so that's what they're going towards.
Okay.
They're gonna go to 20 to 40 instead of 40 to 60.
Okay.
The other thing that I want to mention is that we had the surveyor update actual conditions. Particular, if you recall, there's a condition number 1B, which had to be in the flagpole that goes to County Road 39. There was once a gravel driveway there many, many years ago. In fact, as soon as the prior approval in 2008 was granted, that driveway was actually removed, and it has sort of become overgrown, and they put fences to keep the neighbors from actually using it. So that, the surveyors actually went out and verified that, and that was taken off the plat. So They also updated, which wasn't there in 2008, the fact that the county had come and widened the road and put a sidewalk, so they show now the sidewalk that goes along the frontage on County Road 39 as well.
And Kathy, have you looked at this preliminary Phase 1 planting and screening?
I have, and I will have comments.
Okay.
I will talk to you about them.
That's fine. Yeah, we just submitted it
I'll
last
send it
week, so we
around.
expect whatever comments you can get to us, that would be great.
And we have the appraisal. That was what was holding
You
it
have the
up.
appraisal,
I think Bo has to look at it, right?
you have the appraisal, and I think your council needs to just review it, and once he determines that the appraisal, I guess, is sufficient for the board's point, he'll interface with us, and we'll determine if it meets our needs, and agree to that, and walk in with a check when we're ready to get the map signed.
There's a few more comments that we had, and perhaps we can get together at the end of the meeting.
Sure.
We can move up the date.
I have no further questions. So just about the timing of it, did you say that you needed, that you were expecting this to happen when?
We'd like, I mean, we already have your discretionary approval, so it's a matter of just acknowledging that the conditions have been met. So assuming that we have a landscape plan that's sufficient and that the park fee is being set, it's a matter of us paying a check. We can have that, I think we can have this discussion of any outstanding items. I believe we'll have everything else in place. Like I said, Health Department, the SWIP plan, everything's in place, the map revisions have been done. We expect, and if you're okay with the building envelopes that are shown, that's what I'd like to walk out with tonight, because we then need to submit this map to the Health Department to get the Mylars prepared. And if they do that, we'll have that ready for you in 1 month. And if we met everything, I think you'll be in a position to be able to sign the map at your May meeting.
So you're requesting basically a conditional approval based on all the.
It's all granted. You
Right.
already have it granted.
But
All
she
we're
needs
just,
to review what you've.
the landscape plan.
Yeah, but as far as the setbacks go, I mean, I looked at these and this is what makes sense as
Right.
far as the building, front yards and side yards and so forth. And I mean, the fact that this is an R 12.5 zone and that, that they've dramatically reduced the density, the setbacks make sense for a 20 to 40,000 for lots 1, 4, and 1, 2, and 4.
So at the work session, we were talking about language to that effect, but it's preferable to just have it drawn as we have
I
it
think
there.
this is great, this is better,
And this we reviewed with John Foster, so he's agreeable if you're agreeable, so.
Good. Are we okay to proceed in that fashion?
Yes. So
Yeah,
just
there's no
adjourn for
formal
all
action
purposes
tonight,
then? So under that agreement, we'll adjourn for all purposes?
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you.
Second.
Make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes.
Second.
Bishop Scranton?
Aye.
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 Okay, so we adjourned OIA at the work session.
Forever.
Up to Holdings, there is a neg deck in the file, Bo?
File with a approval for the sketch plan. Affirmative vote on.
Two of those.
The motion will be to approve the negative declaration and the sketch plan. And then what would remain is, much like the request for Southampton RE Partners, there's not that many machinations of this, so I don't see any reason why we can't go directly to the final plot plan without going through a preliminary.
242 and 254.
Okay, so, make a motion to approve the resolution of sketch plan approval on PEP 2 LLC.
This is 2042.
This is 2042.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Same
On this one, Bo,
applies
we're gonna-
to the site plan. I will mention also that there were 2 conditions on the sketch plan approval. Also, the site plan is conditioned on some procedural matters. They're enumerated in the decision. So an affirmative vote on the motion would be to approve the conditional site plan application of PEP 2.
Okay,
Which is 2054.
which is 2054. Motion to approve the resolution of site plan approval as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Both of those. 22.
Yeah, I've got it.
In the application of 550 and 554 Hill Street, there is a letter received to the file today from the applicant's attorney, Mr. Flanagan, requesting this matter be adjourned for all purposes to the regular work session of April 27th and the regular meeting of May 4th.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nothing further on the Chabad.
In the application of Pelosi Auto and Roller, 50 County Road 39.
The decision is basically written, but in writing it, in review of the memorandum that are in the file from Nelson Pope, who had suggested several conditions subsequent to the approval. Kathy and I had discussions about that. Some of those conditions involve rather detailed and intricate procedures, and she and I are reviewing that with the view to eliminating some of them, because there's really no way the institutional memory of the planning board or the village are be capable of that kind of monitoring it. And we also believe that because the applicant's going to have to get approval from the Department of Environmental Conservation and the Health Department, that those 2 institutions will also be addressing those issues which pertained to basically wastewater management, removal from the site, and discharge. So I've spoken with counsel for the applicant and said that I'll have this decision available for you for a vote at your work session, but at the moment, there's just not enough time today to get the decision out, get it proofed, and get it ready for the file. So that should be adjourned for all purposes.
Make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes of Pelosi, Ioto, and Roller until the next scheduled
Second that.
work session of
Aye.
Second.
May 4th.
All for it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The application of Crease Properties, we are awaiting revised plans, and that has been adjourned. Is there anything further on that? No.
No, we already adjourned that one, right?
9 Main Street Limited LLC,
Decision in the file, approving the application as amended. An affirmative vote on the motion would be to approve the application, and several conditions also apply to that, not the least of which are the approvals from the Board of Appeals, and the trustees on a septic system discharge and easements for that.
Make a motion to approve the resolution 9 Main Street LLC as written.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
J-Jet Holdings, 199 Mariner Drive.
Additional decision on this application written in the file also. I can bring you to date on this matter because in writing the decision and reviewing the documents, I noticed that there were some accessory structures that were located in non-conforming areas on the property in the east portion of it, not the least of which was a cyclone fence. I spoke with a representative of the applicant who has been very cooperative. They said they are in fact working with the neighbor to the east to resolve those issues. So what I've done is not to hold them up, condition the approval on 2 alternative conditions, either of which can be elected by the applicant. The applicant can amend or can put that part of the property into conformity before requesting a building permit for the rest of the improvements, or the applicant can obtain a resolution with the neighbor, show how that resolution is going to be made on the property, revise the survey to show that, come back to the planning board for that amended survey approval, in which case they can get a building permit directly for their other improvements, and then show that all the work has been done prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy or certificate of compliance. So hopefully either way, they'll be able to work within their schedule on that. So you can vote on the application, and an affirmative vote on the motion would be to approve the conditional resolution.
Make a motion to approve the conditional resolution of J-Jet Holdings LLC as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There is one flagpole lot landscaping plan review, Skyfall Barnhart,
Yeah,
68 Barnhart
In
Street.
reviewing this and preparing the decision, I had several questions that I was unable to discuss with Kathy before the deadline of this evening. So I'm going to, I'll have that ready for your work session, since that is only a flag lot site approval, but couldn't do it by today, and so request is made to adjourn that for all purposes.
Make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn for all purposes the Skyfall Barnhart until the April 27th work session.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. At the work session, we discussed moving the work session scheduled for Monday, May 25th to Wednesday, May 27th. Is there any further information about, or discussion about doing that? I think we did vote to do that.
I think you did.
My only question is, I think I may have to miss it to go to Canada before the meeting starts.
We'll miss you.
So goodbye.
Do it for the draft.
But is there any positive or negative vote I should leave in a bunker somewhere?
It's a work session,
It's a
so
work session.
it's just a work session,
We're
so,
not doing any votes?
no.
We won't vote on anything important,
Good.
except something that makes you feel disadvantaged.
But I just can't make, since you moved, I can't make that one. I got
So you're gonna-
Annual meeting I gotta get to.
May we vote on minute approvals?
Do we have to vote on moving the work session
We did.
from the 25th to the 27th?
You did.
We did at the work
You did
session?
at the work session.
Okay, all right.
Does anybody have any objection to the minutes of February 23rd, March 2nd, or March 30th?
March 30. Yeah, the only one I saw had to do with that
No.
Barnhart.
You wouldn't have been there for the
March
earlier
30?
ones. What was-
March 30.
Right.
March 30.
February 2nd, you weren't here.
Yeah. Those are perfect.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of February 23rd, March 2nd, and March 30th?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I wasn't here.
Just so
With
Jackie,
that, the next meeting is April 27th at 5 PM. It's a work session, followed by the May 4th public hearing at 5:30 PM. If there's no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this
I'll
meeting?
move we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.